Hi, I'm Ned Lauver. I'm the Director of Operations for the Avon Lake City School District. And you may have noticed a rather large construction project happening behind me here on the high school campus. And we wanted to take a moment to explain exactly what this project means for our kids and for the community at large in a new segment that we like to call Anyone for Tennis? So one of the questions we frequently hear in the community is why tennis and why now? But when I got here about 3.5 years ago, we were already having some discussion about the courts. We were noticing some cracking on courts 1 through 3. We were noticing that the footers that held in the fence posts were starting to heave out of the ground. It looked like a fence that had already been attempted to be stabilized at some point in the past. So that told me that there might be some issues under the courts that we would need to fix. And we started looking at all options at that point, everything from just a basic resurface of the 6 existing courts to something newer, or possibly adding capacity here at the high school for both high school students and for the community at large. Very quickly, we realized that if we just resurface the courts, that might not be enough, because if there were any underlying issues in the soil, if there were any issues with the groundwater, and that's what was causing the footers to heave and the courts to crack, then a resurface might fall apart in just a couple of years. So with the courts being the age they are, I think they're going on about 25 years old at this point. They're from around the 2000, 2001 era. The average lifespan of outdoor courts is probably somewhere between 15 and 25 years. So we're right there at end of life anyway. We started to look at other options. Were there partnership options with the city? Were there other options that we could put into play, pun intended, that allowed us to expand some capacity out here? With pickleball becoming increasingly popular in communities, and with a club active at the high school now for pickleball, we wanted to start thinking about those things so that we were planning for the future and not just putting a Band-Aid on a really bad situation. Another major concern with the courts as they are right now is that they were a safety concern and a liability concern. We actually brought our insurance company out here to look at the courts, and they kind of inspected it, and they told us that we were at an increased risk in terms of our liability for injury based on the heaving fence post footers, tripping hazard, a fence that could fall over at any time, and also the cracking of the courts, which they had attempted to repair on at one point. That wasn't so elegant, was becoming a major tripping hazard, and it was a playability factor as well. Anyone who's played on these courts knows that when the ball hit certain spots on the court, there were dead spots all over these courts, and the ball would hit and just die. And that's not good for our tennis players, that's not good for our community members. Add to that the possibility that someone's going to be playing on these, trip, fall, and break something, and the insurance company was making us very nervous about whether or not we were going to be able to keep our coverage on these courts, and it was just too much of a risk for the system to bear.